device, I ask that you would turn and tap with me this morning. We're going to leave Acts for a moment. We're going to go to the creation book, the book of Genesis, chapter number 50. Amen. When you have it, I ask you to stand to your feet. Genesis chapter number 50. Turn and tap there. I'm going to begin at verse number 15. When you have it, please say amen. Genesis chapter 50, beginning at verse 15, reads thusly. And when Joseph's brothers saw their father was dead, they said, Joseph will perhaps hate us, and will certainly requite us all the evil which we did unto him. So they sent a messenger to Joseph, saying that thy father did command before he died, saying, so shall you say unto Joseph, forgive, I pray thee now, the trespass of thy brother, and their sin. For they did unto thee evil, and now we pray thee, forgive the trespass of the servants of God, of thy father. And Joseph wept when they spake unto him. His brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, behold, we be thy servants. And Joseph said unto them, fear not, for am I in the place of God? But as for you, you thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good. One translation says, you meant evil, but God meant it for good. For what? To bring to pass, as it is this day, to save much people alive. Now therefore fear ye not. I will nourish or provide for you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spake kindly unto them. Amen. The word of God is blessed now and forever. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring about this present result, to preserve many people alive. Just want to preach for a few moments on this thought. Something good has got to come out of this. Something good has to come out of this. And Lord, ripped out of the pages of our current news cycle, we read about the gunman in Pittsburgh who maliciously shot and killed 11 individuals who were simply in the midst of their worship service. In their synagogue, this man walked in and he heinously and violently opened fire on unsuspecting victims. What a sad, sad story. Then there's another story that details how one man tried to mail explosive devices to people throughout our country in hopes of creating mass hysteria and chaos. Cross over the seas, you read about teenage girls in India who were beheaded in their caste system simply for not accepting someone else's advances. Then there's war-ravaged areas where children are put on the front line. You don't even have to go that far, do you? Travel north on Route 5. Turn right on Suitland Parkway. Get off at Stanton Road. And in that area, you'll find people that say sometimes they feel like they're living in a war zone. No matter where you go, it's evil all around us. No matter how you try to psychoanalyze the minds and the attempts of motives of people behind why they do what they do, the answer is that it's simply evil in its purest form. Evil has a tendency to erupt at a whim's notice. And it's not always because you or I have done something. It's just because that's how evil operates. And ever since the fall in Genesis chapter 3, the entire world that we live in, people included, have the propensity to experience that thing called evil. There are natural evils in our world, we'll admit. Natural things like tornadoes and hurricanes and tsunamis that are earthquakes that are in our world, and we find those things are evil in the world. But it's not always because that somebody did something wrong. No, it's because our world is fallen. Amen. Paul wrote in Romans that the entire earth moans and groans in the pains of childbirth together. But you and I, brothers and sisters, we are also fallen. People, when born into the world, are totally depraved. In other words, coming into the world, people are essentially and unchangeably bad apart from the divine grace of God. Amen. Think about it. You don't have to teach anyone how to do anything wrong. Amen. But you do have to train and instruct individuals on how to do good. Are y'all with me this morning? Amen. Evil has a tendency, watch it, to start not only in our hearts, but in our homes. And it spreads to our streets. Evil invades our communities. It engulfs our cities. It then ravages our states. It pollutes our nations. It deceives our leaders. It corrupts our world. I tell you, evil has a way of simply spreading wherever it wants to go. Now I'll admit to you this morning, it's a gloomy statement, somewhat of a dim picture, to open up a biblical message by saying and teaching about the power of evil. But before you throw this young preacher away, before you throw me out with the bathwater, before you say all Pastor Jay does is preach gloom and doom, let me remind you that evil is only temporary. I want you to know that evil, Brother Cody, has an expiration date. But until that time comes, God in His infinite wisdom has created a stopgap for the propensity for evil. God has given us something that allows evil to come thus far, but not affect everybody else like it does other individuals. He said in Romans chapter 12, verse 21, what is that thing? You overcome evil, not with evil, but you overcome it with good. Doesn't mean that evil won't happen. It just means that evil won't be able to claim its trophy as a victor in your life. It means that evil won't be able to go home saying, I'm the winner on today. Here's the big picture. Even in the face of evil, God's providential hand can still ultimately bring about something good. Y'all ought to get happy about that, because even in the midst of evil, some good can still come out of this. That's the backdrop of our passage this morning. We read Genesis chapter 50. It's actually a strange place to start, because it's the end of the book. It's the end of the life of a brother by the name of Joseph and Jacob. It's the tail end of their story. But we're introduced to our friend Joseph way back in chapter number 37. 37, Joseph is but a young teenage boy by the age of 17. As a son amongst many brothers, his father Israel, who was formerly called Jacob, loved him more than his other sons. His brothers could not stand Joseph. They despised the fact that he had this multicolored Gucci jacket from his father. They despised the fact that Joseph was a dreamer. They despised the fact that Joseph said things like, my sheep is going to stand upright while your sheep is going to bow down before the others. So they devised in their mind this wicked and this evil scheme to deal with this brother that they can't stand. When they're out there in the wilderness, they see their brother Joseph coming from a distance. While they see him taking their steps in his multicolored Gucci coat, they say, we're going to kill this brother that we don't love. And it's his older brother Reuben who said, instead of killing him, let's throw him into the pit. Amen. He would have been left there to die. But his other brother by the name of Judah says, instead of throwing him there, leaving him there, let's make some money off this guy. Let's sell him to the Midianites. And in essence, his own brother showed that he valued money over mercy. He valued profit over people. Let's pause for a moment there. Don't you ever put profit over people. Don't you ever put material things over the lives of someone else. They sell Joseph as property. They sell Joseph as if his life meant nothing at all. Evil was all around that place. They devalued his life, and they lied to their father by dipping that multicolored Gucci coat in blood and saying that Joseph is now dead. So now they're holding this lie, and they bring torment and shame and upsetness, and they're angry, and they have all these internal things they're holding themselves, and then they bring hurt upon their own father, all because of the hate that they harbored in their own hearts. Joseph was sold to the Midianites. Then the Midianites said that we don't value him either, so we're going to sell him to the Egyptians. They sold Joseph into a place called Potiphar's house. While he's there, Potiphar's wife aggressively pursues Joseph. She goes after him, likes the way that Joseph looks, likes the way his shoulders are bumped up, likes the way that his shirt caresses or moves across his chest, likes the way that his eyes look. And she always went up to Joseph and said, why don't you come and be with me tonight, Joseph? You look good, brother. But Joseph, in his heart of hearts, knew that he was a son of the living God. He said, how could I sin against the Lord, my God? What Joseph was essentially doing was he was looking at his own life and reflecting back where God had brought him from. Watching, he had just been in a pit, could have been killed, but now he is in Potiphar's house. And he said, listen, what would it look like for me to disavow or throw away everything that God has done for me in the past to celebrate sin for a season? What would it look like for me to act like God has never touched my life, never blessed my life, never kept me when I was in the pit? What would it look like for me to give away everything just to lay with you just for a few moments? So then she got real arrogant one day, and she grabbed Joseph by his cloak, pulled him close by his collar and said, you gonna lay with me today, brother? He pulled out of his collar, and sometimes, brothers, that's what you have to do. You just gotta get out that thing and run the other way. He pulled himself out of his cloak, and he separated himself from Mrs. Potiphar, ran as fast as he could, but Mrs. Potiphar held on to the cloak that Joseph had, and she decided she was going to twist this story. She decided she was going to twist the thing that happened in the room, and even though she was the aggressor, she now says that Joseph tried to invade her space. Joseph tried to sexually pursue her and jump on her bones, and she told everybody in the land. And so guess what happened? Joseph, who had done nothing wrong, went from the pit and was now thrown into prison. He's there in the prison for 2 years until dream interpretations open the door for freedom. From there he goes on from the pit to the prison all the way to the palace, where he's close with Brother Pharaoh in Egypt. But watch it, because there's some things that start to happen throughout the land. We see the perpetuation of evil amongst people, but there's also some evil in the land because famine starts to break out. Famine, or the lack of rain, is the result of sin in the earth, because we are in a fallen world. Rain was not coming, and so there was a drought that came across the land. Famine started to go out from place to place, and as a famine is expected and begins to break out over the land, Joseph is placed as keeper over all the land of Egypt. In other words, people got to come to Joseph to buy grain and other goods. Pharaoh gives him the finest luxuries of the day. When you read Genesis chapter 41, you'll find that Joseph is given gold chains to wear around his neck. Joseph is given the finest clothing to wear. Joseph is given the best ride you can have in all of Egypt. Matter of fact, Joseph was like the brother who had the diamond in the back, Egypt. And so he sends his sons, and they are off on this brand new mission to find grain for their father back at home. And we don't have time to go through the whole story, but he sends his son, and there they start of a blessed reunion amongst all the brethren. It's been about 14, 15 years since they've been reunited, and oh, it feels so good. They are together now, celebrating one with another, but hold on, because time does keep on passing, and we see something happens in the life of Jacob. What is it, Pastor Jay? It's that Jacob dies. Y'all do realize that death does come on us, and death is not our friend. Death is an enemy of us. Matter of fact, the Bible says the last enemy that will be destroyed is death. Death brings pain, and death brings sorrow. Death makes you hurt, and death makes you cry. And Jacob died, and his brothers were sorrowful, and he eventually dies, and now all they have left is the memory of the past and the fact that Joseph is now in leadership. They know, the brothers know, the evil that they've done towards their own brother. They know and they remember everything they plotted, everything they schemed, everything they wrote down, everything they put on Facebook, everything they tweeted out. They knew everything they did about their brother, and now it was starting to come back up to the pot. They know the evil that they've done towards Joseph. And it's the guilt and the shame of recognizing your own evilness, watch it, that makes you fear retribution. When you know what you know, and you know what you did was wrong, and hurt somebody else, and you never tried to make that thing right, you get concerned looking over your shoulder, wondering who's going to come knocking on your door next. You start running when ain't nobody else chasing. You start sleeping unsteadily at night because you're concerned about who might creep through your window. And so here it is, Joseph's brothers are concerned because they looked at their father as a stopgap or a buffer between the things that Joseph might want to do unto them. They knew the wrong that they did. They knew the wrong that they committed. And while Jacob was living, they said, Joseph ain't going to hurt us because our father is still living. Have you ever been in a dispute with someone? Maybe it's an argument where you potentially knew it could turn physical or hurt somebody else, and then you see them a few weeks or a few months later after the event has passed, and you don't quite know how to act. You don't know if you should go up to them or walk away or try and hide something because you don't know how they're going to respond. Are they going to respond angrily? Are they going to have something cocked back or in their side belt case that you don't know about? Is there a concern that you have? Will they see some type of retribution? And that's what untamed guilt does on the inside of you. When you know that you did was wrong, it starts eating away at the very presence and who you really are. This was the concern in the hearts and the minds of Joseph's brother. The buffer of their father was now gone, and they knew the evilness which they did was able to spew out of them. It could potentially come knocking on their own front door. Joseph, now that he was in power, Joseph, now that he was digging the scene with a gangster lean, Joseph, now who had the authority in his hand, could perform the same evil towards them which they did unto him. Are y'all with me this morning? They knew he could do it. Joseph was in a position to do it. And the truth was, in their hearts, they knew they deserved it. When you know what you did was wrong, and now you know you deserve a consequence for that which you did. You don't watch it. You can't just go through life treating people any kind of way. You never, ever value property over people. You don't ever wake up in the morning and devise your scheme
that the evil that they did is not poured back onto them. So what they do is they insert some unrecorded words of their dead father into the discussion. We don't know if Jacob actually said these words, but they said, he said, forgive them their transgression and their sin. Forgive there literally means don't take the offense to their encounter. Hebrew is like this: lift your hands and be done with it. They asked him in the name of their dead father to do the very thing that they didn't do themselves. They knew that without the action of forgiveness, all that lingers is the goal of vengeance. Without forgiveness, all you have left is you getting on top of the situation. All you have left is your name being above somebody else's name. It's you correcting the actions like you're going to take matters in your own hands and adjusting the outcome to fit your own individual desires. You see, vengeance makes you, or makes it look like you feel good, makes us think that we got the upper hand. Y'all, we like vengeance, don't we? We like revenge. We like get back. You ain't gonna get me and I ain't gonna come back after you. Problem is, we don't know how to do vengeance right. Because we always take it way too far. That's why we got folks getting punched one day and shot the next day. You hurt me, I'ma shoot you. You hurt my child, I'ma destroy your whole family. Vengeance has a way of consuming and taking over our very lives. Matter of fact, Joseph's brothers should have already known something about that, because when their sister got raped, they didn't just deal with the ones that raped their sister, they killed the whole nation. That's the problem with us, brothers and sisters. We take matters into our own hands and then take things way too far. See, here are his brothers. They're before Joseph, and they're saying, forgive his trespasses and forgive his sins. Watch it. Sin and transgression, they are like close cousins. In the Old Testament, sins, transgressions, and iniquity are used to describe the bitterness or the pervertedness of our own character. They sinned when the feelings started on the inside of them. In other words, they began to sin when they saw him walking towards them and they concocted in their mind what they was going to do to them. But they transgressed when they committed the evil act of grabbing their brother and throwing him in the pit. They were bent out of shape. And the truth is, brothers and sisters, if we took time to look in the mirror, every now and then you and I get bent out of shape. We say things that we don't need to say. We act like we don't need to act. We have intentions that we don't need to intend. Brothers watching, they come before Joseph, and they know that he can easily wipe their lives out. Brothers fall down on their knees in front of Joseph, but notice Joseph's reaction in the midst of those who treated him with evil. It was Genesis 37 coming to a literal fulfillment. Because remember I told you, he said, your sheep are going to bow down before my sheep. Verse 37, chapter 37 was fulfilled in chapter number 50. He could have used that time to go, become boisterous and say, I told you so. I told you he was going to bow down to me. Could have used that time to step on his brother's neck when they felt at their lowest point. But he didn't do any of those things. He loved his brother. And that's what I want to tell y'all this morning. See that none of you render evil for evil to any man. Joseph turned to him and he says, sees the pain that they have in their lives, and turns to him and said, am I in God's place? In other words, Joseph says, hear me, I'm not in the place of God. Brothers and sisters, I don't care how much pain you have in your hearts. None of us are in the place of God. Joseph reminds us that we can't play God in the lives of other people. Vengeance was in our hands, we will go overboard. That's why I'm so glad that God says vengeance is mine. Thus saith the Lord. Well, let's not hold you too long. What good could come out of all this? What can we learn even in the presence of all this evil? Joseph shows us that in the midst of evil, you can still, number one, experience God's character. Watch it, because God overrides the plans of evil. Look at it in verse number 20. He says, you meant it for evil against me, but God meant it for good. See, from the very beginning, the brothers of Joseph had a plan that would live out their evil intentions. They saw Joseph coming. They immediately said, we're going to kill him. Instead of killing him, they threw him in a pit. They meant it for evil. But the good thing is that God's meant was bigger than their meant. Meant suggests they weave a plot together and plan secretly to send evil towards Joseph. Y'all do realize that people aren't the only ones that weave things together. Y'all know what weave is, don't you? Where you take things and you start, I ain't talking about your hair ladies, I'm talking about things that you're able to weave together. And so you're weaving certain things together. But watch it, watch what happens. While you're busy weaving shirts, God can weave entire clothing lines. While you're plotting to destroy, God is weaving plans to build. Even though they had bad wills and bad intentions, God fulfills what He righteously desired. God works His good plan even through the wicked plans of evil individuals. It's the wait time that we got a problem with. We wonder, God, when you going to work it out? When you going to have some good come out of this? We know we've been indoors for a night, but how long is the night going to be? How long am I going to have to sit here and endure? Watch it while we're going through all those things. God is still weaving some things together. That's why some good things can happen and some bad things can happen, and God is so ambidextrous that He'll put both hands together and He'll work it all out for your good. All things work together for good to them who love God and are called according to His purpose. God weaves some things together. Why? Because He overrides the plan of evil. But watch it. Not only does God override the plan of evil, but He orchestrates the presence of good. Look at it in verse 20. It's right there. Read it from the New American Standard. It says God meant it for good in order to bring about this present result, to preserve many people alive. Hear me. God is not only sovereign, but He's also providential. In other words, there's an incognito hand of God that you can't see that's working behind the scenes. God, every now and then, He'll move people out the way or either allow or authorize certain events to fulfill His presence of good. He's not the author of evil, but every now and then, He'll let that thing play out just to prove to you that evil really don't have no power after all. He'll let that thing play out so that He'll show you that when you get to the end of it, He'll let you know I was there with you the whole time. He'll let you know that you're moving by grace and you're still here. We just sang it all because of God's grace. It says evil is not going to have the last say. He'll allow a chain of events to unfold that so ultimately His goodness is going to be seen. Y'all don't believe me. I see you looking at me in that tone of face this morning. So let me just break it down real fast. Note how He orchestrates the chain of events. Because if Joseph wasn't loved by his father, he would have never been despised by his brothers. If he wasn't despised, then his brothers wouldn't have plotted to kill him. If he wasn't plotted to kill, then he never would have been put in the pit. If he wasn't put in the pit, then they wouldn't have took after the plan for his death. If he never planned for him to be dead, they never would have sold him to slavery. They never sold him to slavery, he never would have been in Egypt. If he was never in Egypt, he never would have been put in Potiphar's house. If he was never in Potiphar's house, he would have never been accused of sexual abuse. If he was never accused of sexual abuse, he never would have went to prison. If he never would have went to prison, he never would have met the butler or the banker. If he never met the butler or the banker, he would not be able to tell
good.
Not only for Joseph, but also many people. So we experience what God can do. We experience God's character, but lastly, we experience God's compassion. Watch it. Not only do we experience the character, but we experience His compassion. Verse 21 says, so therefore don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones. So He comforted them. Spoke kindly to them. Hear me, church, because in the midst of evil, when you face the ones who have sent evil in your direction, let them know there is no need now for you to be afraid. In essence, you don't have to seek revenge because revenge is only short-lived. The Bible says, seek peace and pursue it. Notice what God does through Joseph. Says, I'll provide for you and the little ones. That's provision. Then He says that He comforted them. Then it says He spoke kindly unto them. He provided, comforted, and He was kind. See, y'all do know that Joseph was a type of Christ. His story shows us why evil is so dangerous. God came unto us and He provided for us. He comforted us. And He speaks kindly towards us. And the world is corrupt. And because it's corrupt, a tree that brings forth evil fruit, it can no way bring forth good fruit. Because the heart is desperately wicked. Who can know the things of the heart? There's some things on the inside of the heart that have a tendency to come out every now and then. Evil thoughts come out the heart. Murders and adulteries come out the heart. Sexual immorality and theft come out the heart. False testimony and slander come out the heart. But hear me, church, don't be too hard on Joseph's brothers, because some of that stuff lies on the inside of us as well. But the good news, church, is this: we still have a compassionate God. He provides for us. He comforts us. And He speaks kindly to us. Matter of fact, Genesis 50:20 is completely fulfilled in the life of Jesus Christ. Where they meant it for evil. They put Joseph in a pit, but they put my Jesus on a cross. And when they drove nails in His hands, they meant it for evil. When they placed thorns on His head, they meant it for evil. When they whipped Him all night long, they meant it for evil. When they laid Him in a borrowed tomb, they meant it for evil. When they put nails in His feet, they meant it for evil. When they made blood come from His body, they meant it for evil. But I'm so glad that when He died on the old rugged cross, they meant it for evil. But God meant it for our good. Is there anybody here that knows that when Jesus died, they meant it for evil, but God meant it for our good? He came evil was good. Matter of fact, that's why we call it Good Friday. It was a Good Friday when Jesus died. But I'm so glad He didn't stay dead, because Sunday it even got better. It even got gooder. Because on Sunday morning, He rose with all power in His hand. Not a little bit of power, not some power, but all power in His hand. That's why we celebrate a good God. Can I tell you one more thing? Why good come out of all this? It's simply because you and I are evil. You and I got some bad stuff on the inside of us. But when Jesus came into the world, He cleans us up from the inside out. That's when Jesus cleans us up from the inside out. Watch it. All the glory goes to the Lord God. Glory don't belong to me. Glory don't belong to you. But all the glory belongs to God. Can we say it one last time? To God be the glory. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. For the things that He has done. To God be the glory. For He has washed me. He has saved me. He has lifted me. He has cleansed me. He has protected me. He provided for me. He lifted me up. He held my hand. He walked with me. Is there anybody this morning that knows God be the glory? When evil is present, when evil is there, good can still come out of it. Why? Because God is still